The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
Welcome into the show that makes you money. It is UFC Best Bets to talk about a UFC Fight Night event in Las Vegas, Nevada, headlined by a flyweight fight between the number 5 and number 8 ranked 125ers in the UFC. Hello, everybody. Welcome into UFC Best Bets. And I know what you're probably thinking. No, I am not doing this show from my grandmother's living room. I am actually at a hotel room in Denver. I came down here to see our guy, Anthony Smith, before he takes off for Brazil. We will talk about UFC 301 next week. Very excited for that card. But first, we have UFC Fight Night here in Las Vegas. And here to break it down with me, as always, is Ian Parker, who joins us from his marble mansion in South Florida, as always. And Ian, before we get to UFC Fight Night, we are going to look back at UFC 300 2 weeks ago. How did we do at UFC 300 there in Las Vegas?
300 was a spectacle. It was historic. Unfortunately, from a betting standpoint, it didn't necessarily go our way. Main event over 1.5 rounds. I honestly thought we were going to see a round 2 or 3 knockout. Perez sent Hill to the shadow realm after saying no to Herb Dean with the cup check. Zhang Weili in over 2.5 rounds. That got a little sweaty, that hit. Gaethje lost. I thought the leg kicks to power were going to be there, but Max Holloway was just the steal of the card. Prochazka hit. Cater and Harrison over 2.5 lost. Lopez won. The parlay, Jalen Turner walked away from his win and our win. We lost the parlay. But this week we're going to bounce back. We had a nice week off. Let's go.
Yeah. Rare off week at UFC 300, and it wasn't even that bad. We did 3 and 4 on the best bets, and we'll get right back to it here on this main card. You can find it at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on ESPN Plus and ESPN. Matheus Nicolau taking on Alex Perez. Is pretty closely contested there, at least by the odds are saying. Flyweight main event, and then you got number 11 Ryan Spann taking on Bogdan Gusov in a light heavyweight co-main event. It's a 6-fight main card, all odds presented to you by ESPN Bet, and let's get into this flyweight bout between Nicolau and Perez. I definitely feel like Nicolau has the advantage here because I find him to be the better striker. Otherwise, Perez does have ways to win this fight, and I think that's what you're seeing in the odds, no? What did you think about this line?
Yeah, look, Nicolau is coming off a year off, getting knocked out by Brandon Royval, and Perez, he looked the best that he's looked in a long time, even in that loss to Muhammad Mokaev. But when you talk about Nicolau, you talk about a guy who's got unpredictable striking, very good accuracy, and as you can see on the stats, good defense. And against a guy in Perez who carries power on the feet, that's going to be extremely important here. Perez does have power. He's got good wrestling, although I think he's going to have trouble against someone like Nicolau who also has got a lot of submissions to his game. It's going to be interesting to see how Nicolau bounces back off of that knockout to Royval, because up until that point, he was looking very good. I believe he was on a 6-fight winning streak up until then. And I still think that he has a pretty high ceiling here. I think he's also catching Perez at a very interesting time. Although Perez looked good in defeat, his takedown defense against Mokaev looked good, he was losing on the feet to Muhammad Mokaev, who's definitely not known for his striking, and that was probably because he was so focused on defending the takedown. For me, I'm going to go Nicolau here. I think the odds make sense. I think that number is right where we want it to be. Unless he gets knocked out again, unless that chin all of a sudden turns into glass, I just don't see happening. To your point, I think he's got more ways to win. I wouldn't be surprised if this went under 4.5 too, but I don't mind taking that number. I think Nicolau is the real deal. I think he gets it done here.
Okay, so maybe a slight lean on the under 4.5, but definitely confident in Nicolau on the minus 185. Let's move to the co-main event. Ryan Spann is in there as a minus 195, about minus 200 favorite against Bogdan Gusov. How do you see this fight at 205 pounds?
I thought that was a trilogy against Anthony Smith. I can't believe how much they look like each other. You know what? Look, Gusov's coming off a nice performance. And Spann, look, I don't even know how to look at Ryan Spann at this point. I think he's still so talented. He's got so much athleticism. It just seems like he drops the ball whenever he's ready to move up to the next level. Against Anthony Smith, it was a very tough fight. Could have went either way. We know he's got knockout power. We know he's got submissions here. Against Gusov, he just has to watch out for that right hand and that uppercut that we saw Gusov do against Pauga. I think Spann is the much more talented, well-rounded fighter. Athleticism. He has to win this fight. This is so important for him, as though all fights are important. For Spann, in my opinion, this will be the career-defining moment for him if he can get past Gusov. I'm going to take Spann. When I picked him, that number was lower. I wouldn't go higher than this. Give me minus 195. If you want better odds, take him to get it done inside the distance.
Okay, so maybe jump on Span, but do it now because if it goes any higher, Ian is off of the Span pick at 195. Let's go through the rest of this main card. You go to the 125-pound division. Lipsky versus Silva. Silva is the favorite here, minus 155 over Lipsky. What do you think?
Look, I think Karine Silva's the real deal here. She's got submissions, she's got good power, and Lipsky, listen, she's a very violent fighter, but we've seen her get knocked out in mostly all of her loss in the UFC. I think she may get a little overconfident here. Her fight against Casey O'Neill, she looked good. O'Neill was coming off the injury. This is Silva's spotlight fight. I think she gets it done here, so I'm going to take her. And Brett, take it a step further, long shot prop of the night, Karine Silva, round 2 sub at plus 800.
And from there, we head to the heavyweight division. Austin Lane taking on Jonata Denise. What do you think of this heavyweight bout?
I like Denise by KO or TKO. All the wins have come that way. Austin Lane, his chin is just not there. Very susceptible to getting hit. Doesn't move his head. I like this kid, Denise, coming off the Contender Series. Let's take him to win. Still kind of a strong number, minus 200. A little heavy, but if you're going to play it, that's the way to go.
And then a fight I think that probably most people would circle as a potential fight of the night is Jonathan Pierce taking on David Onama at featherweight. Who do you like in this one?
I think a lot of people may take a shot at Onama here because the power and what happened with Pierce in his last fight. I just think that Pierce has that wrestling, has that pace that may give Onama a little bit of trouble here. So I'm going to go Pierce here. I think the wrestling is where Onama is at his worst. And you know what? Prop of the night, let's go Pierce to win by decision at plus 200. We've seen Onama's cardio test before. Pierce is going to test it again. He's got to avoid that knockout, though.
All right, and then rounding out that main card on ESPN, it's Tim Means and Euros Medic. What do you think about this one?
You want to talk about another banger. This fight is flying under the radar. Means is pushing almost 40 years old. The chin's not what it used to be, and Medic is coming off that win. Here's my thing. I'm going over 1.5. Medic takes his time with it. Means is going to have to wrestle to grapple. I'd like over 1.5 here. I think there's going to be people who take a flyer on Means, and I get it. Over 1.5 is a very low number. I think this, if it does end of the second, early third.
Yep, I probably agree with you there. Tim Means, easy guy for the bettors to grab on at a plus 250, but you like the over to finish off that main card. Let's move right on to the prelims that you can find on ESPN2 at 4 Eastern. Walk us through your prelim picks, Mr. Parker.
I like Victor Henry over Rani Yaya here. Listen, Rani Yaya's been around for a while. Give me Henry by decision plus 120. Figlak coming back off an injury. Austin Hubbard off the Ultimate Fighter. Just really did not look good in his last fight. Give me the benefit of the doubt in Figlak. Still a very solid prospect. Mays Machado over 2.5 rounds. Ketlin Souza, if you're going to play her, it's parlay or to win by decision. Same thing in his next fight. Give me Yontop here. Then we're going to go Petrovic Liang over 1.5 rounds. Benitez Machet also over 1.5 rounds. However, both those fights are going to have a lot of action early. It'll slow down and then a finish probably at the end of the second. And that's going to be our prelim picks for this week.
All right, so there are your prelims. Let's just keep it moving with the long shot parlay for this week, UFC Fight Night.
Yes, sir. So we're going to start off. We're going to go all method of victory here. Give me Karine Silva by sub at plus 240. Strong number by someone who has all of her wins that way. Victor Henry by decision and Figlak also by decision at plus 1695. Only 3 fights to do it. I'm loving this one.
Okay, there's your long shot parlay. Now how about Parker's parlay, which has been good to us so far in 2024. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, and if Jalen Turner didn't turn his back, it would be even better. Give me Denise, Henry, and Yontop plus 102. I think all 3 fighters win these fights pretty easily and a little bit above even money. I'm going to take my shot here for the week.
And we're cruising right along. The best bets for this weekend. What do you got?
We are. We're moving at rapid fire here, so pay attention. Give me Nicolau minus 185. Ryan Spann, this is the absolute highest I will go here on him. If you want to get plus odds, take him to get it done inside the distance. Karine Silva, I think that number should be higher. It was minus 145 earlier, already jumped up to 55. Means Menich over 1.5. Figlak money line, it wouldn't play it any higher than minus 175. Last but not least, Mays Machado over 2.5 rounds. Brett, as long as Caio Machado doesn't knock out Mays in that first round, Mays does not know usually how to finish fights. He's got to be careful. He will wrestle. I think that actually will go bell to bell.
Well, like I said, we cruised right through this show, and we're cruising right through the UFC schedule, man. UFC 300 last week, UFC 2 weeks ago, UFC 301 next week, and then we got a Conor McGregor fight coming up this summer. Lots of things to discuss, so keep it tuned here. 2 best bets. We will put some money in your wallets. Enjoy the fights this week, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.